Welcome to That Digital Take. I'm your host, Torri Webster. We are so back, baby. For you, I've never left. For me, well, I've been on the run. I've been having fun. I took some summer vacation. I've been working. We've got many life updates for you guys because as it goes, I started recording this podcast kind of like block shot in a way. So when it actually airs to you, the content that I previously shot is from like 2 months ago. It's all going to still be super valuable, so don't worry. I think you're really going to enjoy all of it. But just to give you some context and some background, I was pushing through a very, very busy, insane summer. And so the rollout for the podcast has been slower than what I had originally anticipated. I basically went in guns a-blazing into 2024 being like, oh, I'm going to have a podcast, all these major ideas. And then, of course, when you actually put it in action alongside a very busy lifestyle, it gets a little more complicated. So by the time this episode is reaching you, we are well on our way. We're like into episode 6 now. Things are good. We found our groove. I found my groove. I'm much better at my job now. You know, the saying you get 1% better every single time. I'm like at a 6% now. So we're getting better. We're moving up in the world. So just to give you background on where I've been, because I haven't actually recorded an updated episode for about a month and a half, I have traveled so much. I really, really chose chaos in the month of June. So the way it goes with passion projects, at least, is I have a long laundry list of things to do. I'm self-employed, as you guys know. So by the time I get down to the passion project, it always ends up being, unfortunately, at the bottom of many to-dos for clients and for brands and for, obviously, organic content that has to go live. So now the passion, the focus is really on the pod, and I couldn't be happier. So all that to say, I'm coming with you today with a really fun, fresh episode. I want to give you all the updates, and we're going to walk through it together. So back to June. June was absolutely a madness. Let's recap the travels that I had. So it first kicked off with me heading to Vancouver, British Columbia. I love Vancouver. It's one of my favorite places. And I went to Discovery Island with Apple. Now, going on a press trip with Apple, it's exactly what it sounds like. Absolutely iconic. It was really cool. The whole press trip was actually around the idea of safety and technology. So it was about using their tech to kind of go out into the wild, lose LTE, lose Wi-Fi, lose all kind of cell connection, and put their technology to the test in nature and make sure that we are safe even when we're traveling. So that was a really cool experience. We took like a succession helicopter to get there, which was just unreal. We took water boats. We also took a speedboat ride into what I think they call Devil's Pit. I don't exactly know what it was called, but essentially the whirlpool where you are on that lake, boats can't travel through it because the whirlpool will just pull you in and I guess you die, question mark? I'm not sure. But the idea is essentially like sailboats can't go through because it's literally the most insane waters. However, we were on a speedboat, so we were totally safe, and it was a really cool experience. And we went off the grid, we lost connection, and we used some really cool technology on the Apple devices to find our way back. So things like Backtrack, if you're a hiker, these are like amazing tools you can use. You could be out in the wild and you can click on your Apple Watch to follow the footsteps you had previously taken. So if you happen to be on a hike, you lose your way, you want to find your way back, you can use this app Backtrack and it'll tell you how to find your way home, which is really, really cool. We also used a compass. Haven't used a compass many times in my lifetime, but that was really awesome. On the Apple Watch Ultra, there's also this technology app where you can have a siren function. So if God forbid something happens and you're like lost, you can hit the siren and it'll like send out all these noises to essentially alert passerbys or anybody in your neighborhood or walking by that can find you and save you. And then finally, the coolest thing, emergency SOS satellite. And this is something that obviously it's in the name. It uses satellite to basically, when you have no cell connection or Wi-Fi, use the nearest by satellite, which is normally like 5 to 7 minutes away in space, and it connects, and you can actually alert 911 and emergency services if you've lost connection while you're on a hike or if you are on a boat. and you need to connect to 911. So we actually like used those services and put them to the test, which was really cool. They had told the local fire stations and police stations that we were going to be putting these really kind of awesome tools to the test. And so we got to use them in real time. And it was wild to see. Like, you basically go through a list of things and you say, are you healthy? Can you breathe? Like, what happened? Did you break a leg? And you can alert 911 with all of these cool tech updates. So, anyways, such a wild PR trip and experience, and probably a place I would never have otherwise been able to go to. It was a very remote location in BC called Discovery Islands, as I mentioned. And yeah, it was just not only beautiful, but obviously really cool to have such a one on one experience with such a global and iconic brand. And that really kicked off my month. It was really fabulous. So, after that trip, I then headed to Italy. Now, this was an influencer wedding to end all influencer weddings. It was the most beautiful, aesthetic wedding I have ever been to. And these are friends that we made in Toronto that now live in LA. So it was really kind of cool to have the LA influencer experience. And I think the most special part about this day was, I mean, obviously the wedding. The wedding was super special, but there was a few things. One, it rained, and I don't know about you, but if it rained on my wedding day, I don't know how I would be behaving. I think I'd be a real bitch about it, to be completely honest. But the bride was so gracious. She took it with a grain of salt, and she was just so chill about the whole experience. And she's like, I know I've been planning this for months and months and months, but by the time the day really comes and shows up in front of you, you just want to make the most of it. And that's exactly what she did. Like, it rained all through dinner and she just embraced it, and all the speeches happened in the rain and we danced in the rain, and it was really, really beautiful. So that was just really nice to see, and a reminder that at the end of the day, it's really just about the people you're with and the love that you're celebrating. So if it rains, it pours, baby. But then the other side of this was that it was a very industry driven wedding, probably the first I've been to of its kind in this way, where a lot of the people that were not only attending the wedding, but were in the wedding and, circulating around the wedding and its themes were all people that worked in the creative industries, whether they were DJs or influencers or photographers, editors, designers. It felt like everyone I had a conversation with at the wedding had such a cool creative job. And selfishly, I really enjoyed that experience because I'm really used to, as we've talked about in previous episodes, being the annoying one saying, okay, it's time. I got to shoot my content, got to get that TikTok in, got to get the photos, all that jazz. So it was just really cool to be a guest in a situation where everyone was kind of shooting TikToks and everyone was a photographer with their camera out, and people were capturing moments of the wedding. And so it did feel to have that kind of be normalized. And it did make me realize, after reflecting upon that last episode where I was chatting about, finding that balance, that I think it really does come down to your company and who you're with. And sometimes when you're in those crowds where it is just okay to have your camera out because everybody gets it, then why not lean into it? But like we said in the previous episode, maybe there's those other moments where it's okay to pull back and kind of go offline a little bit. So that was kind of cool to have a bit of a balance of that at that wedding. And the bride actually ended up getting all of her content promoted in Vogue, which is so iconic. That's so Carrie Bradshaw to have like a Vogue wedding moment. So all's well that ends well. I think sometimes when you lean into your influencer side, cool things can happen. So anyways, just wanted to share that tidbit. The travels continued in June. Then I went to Disney World. This was, again, a very special press trip. Now, going on a press trip with Disney, very much like a press trip with Apple, actually. I can't believe I had two of these in the same month, because those are brands that when I do my intentions for the year and my manifestations for the years, I really, have big dreams when it comes to these brands, because the experiences you get on these press trips are genuinely once in a lifetime. Like, you can't buy these experiences. They're one of one, and they're just so special. So I went to Disney World on a press trip to promote one of their brand new rides, and it's called Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And it basically took over one of the older rides that used to exist at Disney World, and now they've revamped it, and they have this amazing new fabulous ride. It was so fun. We got to get a media preview of the ride. So we actually were the first in North America to ride the ride, which again seems insane for me to say, but that was the case. We had a full media day set up where we got to go into the parks before open. We got to go on the ride, obviously without a line. We got to bring cameras and kind of tripods and actually hook them up to the rides so that we could get real footage and real time reactions to our experience on the ride. And it was just a really special experience. And even though we were there just for that ride launch, on both days, kind of on either side of that launch, we actually got to go into all of the other parks and experience all the other special rides that are currently kind of happening in the park. So if you are going to Disney anytime soon, just like, oh, this is such an aside, but a few really quick tips. Which ride was I obsessed with? The Tron ride, insane. So fun, so fast, truly iconic. Highly, highly, highly recommend. And then, of course, the other ride that everyone has been just dying over is Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's in Epcot. So really recommend those two rides if you do happen to be heading to Disney World in the next couple of months, because, so here's the secret. There is a such thing as a pass. This sounds so cryptic, and I actually don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it and then beg for forgiveness if I'm not allowed to talk about it. So there is a pass that certain players that work for Disney have that essentially gives them access to every single ride, whenever, wherever, however many times you want to ride it. Now, as someone who grew up going to Disney World just as a regular passerby that would just pay my way and wait in the lines and buy my fast passes and do my thing just like everybody else, this card really unlocks a joy that I can't truly express. It basically means that you can go up to the front of the line as long as you're with this specific Disney rep, and she flashes this very beautiful pass, and you can ride the ride as many times as you want. Yeah, it's pretty special. There's not really much more I can say or share about that, but I just want you to know that it exists. I want you to go out with the intention that one day you will have that experience, because holy moly, it is quite something, especially when you're a big Disney fan. So anyways, I just wanted to give you that really cool behind the scenes, sorry. So in that same week, then I left Disney. I flew to the south of France. This was, again, a once in a lifetime experience. June, I really said, let's just do bucket list. I said, I can't record the podcast. I have to be living life so that the podcast can then thrive and have great quality content. So I flew to the south of France with Bioderma, which is a brand I'm sure you're all familiar with. This is such a fabulous skincare brand that is sold at Shoppers. Everybody loves them for their micellar water, and actually their head offices are in the south of France. So that's why we got to go to Provence and kind of experience the brand in its truest form. And we got to go to the laboratories and see how the micellar water is made. And those are really the cool parts of the job. Again, it's hard sometimes when I'm doing these podcasts in retrospect, because so many small little things happen on these press trips that are definitely worth mentioning. But because this week we're playing catch up on a full month, I'm kind of just giving you the general overview, and we'll dive into deeper topics as time goes on. But I did think it was worth mentioning because that was a really special trip and just very luxurious. And actually the south of France immediately jumped to the top of my list as one of my favorite places. And now I cannot wait to go back. Unpopular opinion, but I think it's one of my favorite places in Europe now. Like, after I did a lot of travel to Europe the last 6 months, and I was like, oh my God, south of France is the one. This is the place. So this is where the chaos then begins. I leave the south of France at probably like 3 a.m. I get on a flight. I connect through Frankfurt, I believe it was. Like, ask me why I've been in Germany 10 times this year. I literally don't know. And it's always for connecting flights. And I miss the connecting flights. And it's such a nightmare. Like, I'm not actively trying to spend time in Germany, and I keep ending up in Germany. I don't understand. So anyways, I'm in Frankfurt this time around. I get to Frankfurt, then I have the most insane flight. It's like 11 and a half hours. Keep in mind, this is the same day, to Vancouver for another press trip. And then I land in Vancouver, and now I've gained an obscene amount of time. I can't even remember what the time change was, but essentially it was like 4 p.m. Vancouver time. So it's like, okay, I still have a whole night I have to live. And when I arrive at the hotel, the brand team, like the brand, I was there with Revlon, and the brand team was so gracious. And they said, hey, we have a makeup artist coming to do your makeup. And then we have our brand dinner that night. So now I've been up since 3 a.m. France time. I have a makeup artist come to my room. I pull a Kim Kardashian. You know, you like sleep through your glam. Like that's her thing. She just always like falls asleep while they do her glam. I'm like, wow, I feel like I've made it. And that was really cool. But then I just had to pull myself together and go to this brand dinner on like basically zero sleep. That was, again, we made it work. I just kind of pushed through, and nothing a little glass of champagne can't give you a little jolt, bring you back to life. So, yeah, we pushed through that brand dinner. The next day was epic. We did like an amazing helicopter ride, and it was a really special trip. And their longwear formulas and everything that has to do with Revlon longwear was what we were putting to the test. So, under extreme conditions, rocking their makeup, wearing their makeup, styling their makeup, and experiencing life to its fullest while rocking Revlon makeup. So, that is where the press trips ended for June. But that is not where the chaos ended. So I fly back from Vancouver after what feels like an absolute whirlwind after like Disney, south of France, Vancouver, just all over the place. And that week I closed on my new house. So I moved. I moved out of my very precious loft. I am now moved into my new home, and I'm so happy. However, I will say, like, moving is such a pain in the ass. Like, I'm still in boxes, and now we're just kind of finally working on some of the renovations, which I really hope I can share more with you guys behind the scenes, what those renovations are. My dreams, my hopes and dreams are to have like epic closets that I'm currently developing with a designer, and we're waiting on some furniture. So I'm being realistic. I think by December, I am going to feel excited and at home. I feel really settled there, but I don't feel fully at home yet. Or sorry, I feel the opposite. I feel at home there. I don't feel settled yet. I'm loving the space and the vibes are amazing, but just like not having my items and my clothes where I need them is very chaotic. So, anyways, that is my monthly recap for you guys. Now we're going to head into the weekly topic. So, part of the exploration of this podcast is also challenging where the industry and the influencer industry currently stands. Because that's the whole point. We can't look at it with rose colored glasses. I want to come at you with questions. And sometimes these are topics that I won't even always have the answers for, but I think are worth discussing because these are feelings that I always experience. And then I want to challenge them. So, based on everything I just shared with you, the press trips, the back and forth, the da da da, whatever, all the a million amazing, fabulous things I got to experience in June, begs this question. Do you think influencers glamorize their lifestyles too much? And I ask this question because obviously I come off of all this travel. And to me, I'm like threefold. That was four, but threefold. One, gratitude. Just being like, I'm so grateful that brands even think of me for these experiences and that I get to experience this life and get to share these things with my community. Two, I love creating content. So when I'm on the run and I'm experiencing these really special things, to me, it doesn't necessarily always feel like work because I'm just capturing my life as it's happening. But then three, and this is where the question comes in, does it become too much of a highlight reel for everybody else that's experiencing the content on the back end? And the reason I ask this is because I know that this is a format where I can sit here and say, oh, yeah, so that was so shit. I got stuck in Frankfurt and I had a 12-hour flight and it was absolute madness and I had no sleep and I had to chug a glass of champagne to find the zest within me. But the reality is, at the end of the day, you guys just saw me posing with the beautiful lipstick and saying, hey, putting this makeup to the test. I'm in Vancouver having a good time. To me, there's like a bit of a disconnect there. And I think some influencers are better at it than others, where they can kind of blur the boundaries a little bit and you kind of can see what's happening while it's happening. I feel like Alex Earl is a good example of that. We have influencers that are like showing the real raw, disconnected all the time. But in the same breath, Alex Earl is in Europe for 6 weeks at a time. And all we see right now is like all these fabulous influencers capturing life in Paris at the Olympics and all of these good things. So I guess I'm sitting here wondering, is it a little bit too much va-va-voom, right? Like when we scroll through our feeds, like, are we going to grow tired of all of this very indulgent, filtered, perfect behavior. Do you know what I'm saying? And if that is the case, because this is the other thing people always ask, what is the future of influencer, right? And like I said, I think there are influencers and creators that are already doing it so well, pulling it all back and being like, what do you guys actually want to see? Do you really want to see the products I'm using? Or do you just want to see this as the job that it actually is and have all those really real, raw, behind the scenes moments become the vlog or become the content? So I'll use this past weekend as an example because I was at Osheaga, the music festival in Montreal. Fabulous time. I was there with 3 different brand partners capturing content throughout the weekend. And for me, obviously, listen, it's a music festival. It's epic. I'm like, the fact that I get to call this work, like most people are like, oh, I'm heading off to a corporate retreat. I'm like, yeah, I'm just heading off to Osheaga. Like, it's such a blessing. And I sit here, I'm like, it literally almost never feels like work. But at the end of the day, you're still in 100-degree heat. You're still editing. You're still shooting. You still got your cameras out. You're always on. It's whatever. You're running into followers at the festival. You don't want to be caught in a moment where you're on bad behavior or anything like that. So it does make me just ask the question, like, what do we want from influencers going forward? And I include myself in this, like, because when I see certain vlog content over and over and over where it's this perfectly aesthetic lifestyle and we have to aspire to have this insane first class experience everywhere we go. Like, are we as consumers gonna at a certain point say, fuck all y'all? Like, you know what I mean? And again, this is tricky for me to say because I'm obviously on the other side of it, but I'm also a consumer at the end of the day. So I just want to keep this as an open conversation because I'm genuinely curious what you guys think. Like, do you like that at the end of the day you see a curated photo at Osheaga with like my perfect Levi's outfit? Because yeah, that was the outfit and I rocked it all day long and I loved the look and fabulous and that was the epic photo that was captured. Or would you prefer to have seen a completely different angle of that outfit being, hey, I'm heading to Osheaga. It's going to be 1,000 degrees this weekend. Let's find an outfit together that's going to beat the heat and like actually make me feel comfortable while I dance the night away. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the content still needs to be there. The storytelling still needs to be there. The entertainment still needs to be there. But are we going to ask that influencers show up in a different way online so that we can connect to them in a different way and or maybe have it feel less aspirational and just more like, this could be me as well, you know? So that's the question. And like I said, I don't think we can solve this problem in one day. I don't think this is a topic that can be tackled in one day, but it is something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially after coming off a month like I had, because it was so special for me to experience and it was so iconic. But I do sit there and I wonder after a month like that, like, hey, did my audience love that? Were you guys stoked on that? And maybe you are. Like, listen, 100%. Like, maybe you guys are going to DM me and you're going to say, Torri, I love when you show the glamorous sides of the industry. I feel like that's what keeps me going and it's motivational and I want to be in this industry. And that's what's so cool because that is 100% a perspective. But then another perspective could be, yeah, you know what? I felt a bit bad about myself. I felt like I was playing a comparison game and I just wanted to feel like you were hanging out at Trinity Bellwoods Park in Toronto the way that I could be. And I just wanted to see something a little bit more chill. Because that's the other thing that we don't show, right? Like I've moved and I'm in this new neighborhood and I found this cute little ice cream shop. And my friends and I like to go to this ice cream shop all the time and do our little walks. And like, are those the small things that we want to see? And brands want quality, right? Brands want quality content. They want key messaging. They want professional content. And then audiences, like myself, consumers included, want raw, real, relatable. So what do we do when these two things are at odds with each other when it comes to creating content? This is my question and topic for this week. So I'll leave you with that. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think because it's just some thoughts that I've been thinking about. And like I said, from the dawn of time of this podcast, I really want this to be a place where I can show up authentically and ask questions as they come to me and not feel scared to ask these questions because I know that if I'm feeling it, other people are feeling it too. No feeling is universal. And I might be crazy, but I might also be right. So I'll leave you with that today, and I will see you at the next episode. Thanks for catching up with me, and we will be back, well, next week. Okay, bye.